everybody, Kathy Hansen here. Hope this finds y'all healthy and happy. In a previous video using the Sketch and Wash pencil, I showed y'all how you could effortlessly create this pear. But today I want to show you how you can do some really cool special effect techniques with this same Sketch and Wash water-soluble graphite pencil by General Pencil. These are all the tools you are going to need to create these trees besides a good watercolor brush, paper towel, and water. So let the fun begin. I'm working on 140 cold press watercolor paper. I am going to create the shape of the tree just with water. The wetter it is, more wet here. The wetter it is, you will find the pigment particles I'm going to put on it will wick out more and create real cool effects. Where it is drier, it's going to be more stationary. I am taking my sanding paddle. I'm going to position it over my pencil and go back and forth, back and forth. Don't make the mistake. Some people go like this and then kind of dump it. You will not be in control of where the particles fall. Just run it back and forth, and sometimes less is more. I can always come back. Now I've placed it everywhere, but it only sticks where it finds moisture. Right off the bat, I'm going to bring this up closer so you can see some of these cool particle effects. Notice it's softer where it was wetter, and they're a little more bold and more precise where it was drier. Now, immediately take all the water out of your brush, pinch that belly so it kind of looks like a fan, and then softly start pulling those particles. Long as they're wet, you can manipulate them further. Once it dries, they are going to be stationary. If you have an area you wish you had a little bit more, you could still grate that right now. Now, I always have a second Sketch and Wash pencil, and I always flag this one. This is the one I use wet all the time. You really should not wet your pencil. You really shouldn't, because as the moisture wicks up that core, it's going to compromise it. Maybe 6 months from now, every time I go to draw with this, it's just going to break, and that's because I've compromised the core. But for 6 months of being able to create these cool effects, I will gladly throw it away and get a new one. But that's why I flag it, so I'm always just compromising the same one. Now, because I wet it, I'm not only going to get a dark mark, but when I lift it up, you're going to get all these additional values. I'm going to try to zoom in for you to be able to see this part right here. Can you see how it not only left a dark mark, but there was also values around those marks? See how it's creating additional values around it? That just gave it that much more depth than if I would have just laid it down and made a dark mark. Okay? So we're going to randomly put some of these dark marks within this birch tree. Less is more sometimes, and make them all different sizes and shapes. Okay? Boom. How cool is that for starters? I could leave this totally alone, or I could have even come in and manipulated a little bit more, but sometimes less is more, and I'm really happy with that. Now I want to show you 3 different types of tree limbs. Okay? So I'm going to zoom back out for you. And I like to show you more than one type of limb, because if you are doing a grouping, you're going to have some of those limbs look different. So some look like they're behind others, some are in the foreground, some are reaching over another one. So if I want super bold, what I'm going to do is look at how bold that marking is going to be. working off that wet tip. Okay, bring that into the side of it a little bit. Okay, now I got to switch over to my dry pencil. If I draw on the dry paper, what's great about this pencil, and I show that in the pear video, is when water comes into contact with this, either all the lines are going to dissolve or just partially dissolve if you get in and out with the brush real quick. The areas you just get in and out, you're going to see part of the lines, which adds texture, as well as you're going to have varying degrees. All right, come on, baby, focus for me. There we go. Kind of see that little bit of texture? I actually could have left it totally alone. You do not have to actually wet it. Like I said, there's so many different ways. Now, I am going to just show you first. See how it only darkens where I wet it? So I'm going to come in and out. I like to, when I do this one, leave some of the areas where I don't touch it, because look how many different values I have managed to get in here. And sometimes I can just even go lighter off of it, utilizing the pigment that was already in the brush. So that is another cool way you can do it. And again, let's not have it have an abrupt stop. Let's go ahead and bring it into part of that. And then the third way you can do it is pretend this is another piece of paper. All right, we're going to zoom back out so you can see the whole thing. Pretend that this is another piece of paper. You can actually just draw a little bit of pigment, wet your brush, activate it. How light or dark the value will be is how much water you put in that brush. So the third way I could have done one was actually just drawing it this way. See how light that is? So you have 3 different ways that you can actually create branches on your birch tree. Now, I do not like to totally outline it. I like to hit and miss in a few spots. That way it gives it additional depth and value. So a cool tree in 60 seconds or less, not left. It's been a long day of filming. So this is my version of a birch tree from the North Woods. And then one last thing I want to share with you. Again, in that previous film I showed you step by step how effortlessly you can create a pear using the Sketch and Wash pencil. What I didn't share with you is once this dries, it's permanent. So it is an awesome pencil to use in any mixed media, because when it dries, it's permanent. If you put wet applications of pigments or mediums over it, it's not going to reactivate and smear the shape or have the pigment particles react with it and muddy your colors. I'm going to be putting some Kimberly watercolor pencils on top of this. This is my watercolor pencil of choice. And actually the artwork even done on this was created with the pencils. This shows you how fresh and vibrant these colors are. There's so much pigment in these pencils. You can do an entire watercolor painting with them, or even incorporate them into your watercolors, and you will not see a transition line because they are a true semi-transparent pigment, just like your watercolors. So if you put watercolor pencil on top of Sketch and Wash, the gray tones are going to filter through, and it's going to give this really cool, almost like grisaille effect. This yellow is almost going to look green because the grays filter through, but it just makes this pear almost have an energy about it and hum a little bit. I love putting watercolor pencils over some of my Sketch and Wash designs. It just gives a whole different look, and I'm all about making my work look a little different than someone else's. So here are 2 great tips on additional ways that you can work with a Sketch and Wash pencil by General Pencil.